Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Money Matters Top Tips for Success, where each and every day I bring on new business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and have them share their top tips for success with you. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, moneymatterstoptips.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today is a very special reunion 2020 episode. What is that? That's when I bring on a guest that I had on in the past. I liked him so much I had to bring him on back for a second episode. So today's guest is Jesus Villalobos, and he is founder and CEO over at Sparta Legacy. Jesus, welcome back to the show.
Feels great to be back, Adam.
Oh, man, happy 2020. We made it, another year. I'm excited to get into this with you and talk about, starting the year strong for the 2020. That being said, we got a lot of new listeners, had a really blessed year on the podcast, grew a lot. I don't want to assume that everybody heard the first episode for some of the new listeners. So that being said, let's just start off with you telling us a little bit more about what you're up to at Sparta Legacy. Let's start there.
Definitely. And I do really appreciate this opportunity. I know last time we had a blast. But essentially, in a nutshell, we're helping essentially the middle class, middle America, get back on track financially so they can create their own legacy, right? Whether it be through investments, literacy, education, or even insurance. So we're trying to essentially help the guy or the lady or the family that gets left behind and making sure they're back on track and hitting their 2020 goals.
Man, that's awesome. Love the work you're doing over there. So let's go a little bit further. So what are some, like you said, 2020 goals? A lot of people setting goals, financial goals and otherwise, and maybe they need a little bit more guidance on some tips or actionable things they can do to reach their goals in 2020 and beyond. Where would you, for that person that's listening right now and is kind of going through that process of starting those goals, where would you tell them to start?
Frankly, to put it on paper. There's just the power of putting goals on paper, and I can't stress enough how important that is. And it's kind of sad at the same time and unfortunate that a lot of us as adults, we don't have our goals written down. And it's kind of hard to focus on something we really don't have a map to or direction to. So definitely starting off with putting goals on paper, no matter how ridiculous or unrealistic they may seem. I don't know who said this, but it's always stayed in my mind. And it's, before something ever gets made or created, it happens 3 times, right? In mind, on paper, and then boom, it gets built. And I think that's kind of applies the same way with our goals, right? First, we have to have the dream, the ambition, the goal, and then let's put it on paper, and then we can figure out, okay, how do we make it happen?
Man, I love that, and it was one of my favorite things to do. So when I'm working with my team or even myself, when I think about goals and the other benefit of it is, if you don't have that written down, then to me it's not that important to you. That's just what it comes down to.
Exactly.
Like, you may say it is, but it's not, because if you did, you would have wrote it down. It's just one of those things. You may say it is, but if it's too general, you don't have like a clear roadmap to it. It's like kind of saying you want to hit this target, but you don't really know what it is, and it's moving all the time. And I think one of the really important things is that it is moving and you're moving. So meaning, since nothing's staying still, if you don't write it down, how do you reevaluate? How do you go back and see if that goal is still important to you? Because I can tell you, I wrote down some goals like when I was, 5 years ago that when I look at them now, I'm like, yeah, that wasn't that important, or I don't even care about that anymore. I can't imagine if I didn't write that down to know, like, yeah, that's not going to work.
Exactly. On top of that, the goal shouldn't ever change, right? But the plan to get there sort of should change along the way. But the goal of having peace of mind, for example, or losing weight, that goal should never essentially disappear, but the plan that's going to get you there is essentially what will mutate or changes along the way. And I think you hit it on the nail. I think too many people don't want to put their goals on paper. For one big reason, it's another form of accountability, right? Nobody wants to write down their secrets, right, or the desires, because maybe it's like, well, I don't know if this is going to happen, right? I don't want to put it on paper.
Makes it real. It makes it real, right?
Exactly.
No, I love it. So let's just say that. Okay, so let's say that. All right, step one. Let's say maybe they wrote down the goal. They have or they're creating their goal. So in my opinion, the next thing would be the roadmap. So obviously the goal is, let's just say, the macro side of it is just saying, all right, I want to do X, Y, Z. Now the roadmap is what's going to get you to obtain the goal. What kind of advice or tips would you give on starting that process?
Perfect. Actually, that's one of my favorite parts, right? So it's the whole adage of how do you eat an elephant, right? Well, one bite at a time, right? So the idea is to break things down so that they're not so scary and so big or so out of reach. So, for example, let's just say you're starting a business or you want to lose weight. Okay, if you want to lose 50 pounds, okay, how far, right? With 6 months. Okay, then break that down into 6 months, and then break it down into a month, and then breaking down into a week, and then breaking down to a day. Because it's so much easier to just take one step, right, than to run, right? And I think that portion is actually what makes or breaks most people. It's oh my God, I don't think I could ever have that much money saved. But when you start to break it down, it's like, oh, it's only like $7 a day, and you'll have $2,000 by the end of the year, or a little bit more than that. It's like, oh my gosh, man, how much money am I throwing away? Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's just really just breaking everything down and then looking, okay, what are my available resources, right? Is there something I need to go learn, or something someone I need to talk to? Who's an expert at that specific area, right? I mean, statistically speaking, from what I've read so far, you're far more likely to hit your fitness goals if you're working with a trainer versus if you're trying to do it on your own. So one of the steps is, okay, who has mastered this, or who can I pair up or match up with to essentially hit my goal? So that would be kind of looking at what are my resources, breaking down my goal into smaller pieces. And then now it's the big question is, am I willing to do the work? Am I willing to do the work? Definitely.
Yeah, and to me, like, the execution is obviously what happens, is where all the results come. But that being said, without those other two things, like, you don't even have a chance to execute, in my opinion, because you just don't have the direction. And then, I mean, you're going to slip up, you're going to miss it, you're going to splurge, you're going to miss whatever, if it's a diet or whatever, eating whatever regimen or whatever you want to call it, or your workout, you're going to oversleep one day. But the whole point is that's kind of like your guide map. It's like your North Star for the goal you want to achieve. So you have to have that written down and that plan done so you can say, all right, I messed up here, but it's not over with. That was one moment. That doesn't define, like, the project or the outcome.
Absolutely. And it really, really comes down, in my experience, for me personally, it all came down to my morning routine, right? What do I do the first moment I wake up? You know, I started waking up a lot earlier this year, like around 4:30 a.m., and man, it just makes a whole difference. So I start off by reading my affirmations, reviewing my goals, right? Watching something that's either inspiration, motivational, or educational before I do anything.
Or listening to the podcast. It's cool.
Or listening to the podcast. Exactly, right? I mean, proximity is power, right? What
shameless plug.
Exactly. Man, you definitely got to listen to Adam's podcast. I mean, man,
that's funny.
You know what's interesting? When I first heard about your podcast, I literally went through each and every single one, and I was just blown away by the nuggets, the information that people can literally get in 15 minutes. I mean, it's just, sometimes people think as learning something is going to take 6 months into a year. Actually, no, you can learn quite a bit in 10, 15 minutes that could perpetuate you years ahead of everybody else. But again, nobody wants to do the hard stuff.
Let me give you one that I learned today that's just like, I couldn't believe it. I never thought about it. So I would argue between my team and everything else, like, we're probably expert level on a lot of different social media, and specifically also LinkedIn, all this. I had on this, her name's Shiley Hakimian, and social media Sherpa is what she goes by. She's amazing. And she says that, and I thought about it, and I'm like, man, that makes so much sense. So what she does is when somebody likes or engages in her posts, like on LinkedIn, she sends them a personal thank you, like just an actual message. And she gets so much business from that, just from saying thank you. She doesn't ask for anything. She says, hey, I saw you like my post. Just wanted to say thank you. And that's it.
Wow.
That's it. And like, I was like mind blown. So when you say in 10 to 15 minutes, no, to learn is instantly. If it's new and your mind is like, and it's a great idea, it's instant. It's like, boom, you got it. Like, if there's nothing else, I can't unlearn what she told me. I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Like, I can't unlearn that. It's just so good. And you can't either. I hear you. I see you right now.
Oh my gosh. Jeez. You know, it's just simple.
So
things,
simple.
Right?
It's so simple. But
thing.
but how many people have ever sent me a thank you on LinkedIn for liking their post? Exactly 0.
No, it's actually the opposite sometimes, right? It's the, whoa, you're coming a little too hard. Like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah, it's like, easy there, killer. It's okay.
Refreshing. That's refreshing. That's actually a wow. Okay,
I said that just to illustrate the point that not only you, but everyone else, forget the length of the podcast, 10 to 15 minutes. It's instant. You got an idea, and if your mind accepts it, like, you're done. You can't unlearn it. So that's what I love about it all.
Powerful.
So, Jesus, that being said, so obviously I can talk to you about this all day. I already know when you and I get going, but we're about out of time. So if somebody is listening to this and they want more information on Sparta Legacy or to connect with you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Right now is my LinkedIn account. Definitely reach out, say hi. More than happy to talk. I mean, it's the idea is to empower each other, right? So LinkedIn, great platform. It's a great place to reach me at.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, really appreciate you coming on the show today for this Reunion 2020 episode. Excited to have you back on here in 2021. All great stuff. Get some updates from you. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. I hope you had a lot of fun listening to this because we had fun making it to you or making it for you and bringing it to you. So if you did, don't forget, subscribe to the podcast. If you're watching this on our new YouTube channel, Money Matters Top Tips, be sure to give that a subscribe and leave us some comments in the comment section. Love to hear what you're doing and how you're and what's going on with you in terms of your goal planning in 2020 and how everything's going there. And Jesus, again, thank you for coming back on the show.
Awesome. Congratulations on the book, by the way. Subscribe.